Chapter 175. An Historic Eclipse of the Moon. When Mary, assisted by Eudokia, had completed her household duties, she also went up on the little hill preceded by Eudokia. Here the little child ran towards her and danced joyously around his indeed lovely mother. Mary now took the already fairly heavy little child on her somewhat tired arms, caressed him and jokingly said, "My, but you are heavy today. You undoubtedly were too sweet-toothed and ate too much bread, butter and honey." The little child answered, "Oh, there was much to put away, such a little jar that James can easily hide it in his fist. Then a little piece of bread which one may not expose to the wind either, so it will not promptly be lifted up into the air like a dry leaf. One certainly cannot put on much weight from that. I must confess that I am really quite hungry and already look forward to the evening meal. See, Joseph and Jonathan have already made a meal of the whole moon and are still hungry, although they are grown. How then should I have stilled my hunger with that fly's snack when I still have to grow?" And Mary said to the child, "My little son, but you are really quite difficult again today. See, if Joseph and Jonathan had made a meal of the moon, it surely would never shine down so beautifully from the sky." And the little child said, "Woman and mother, I'm not being difficult. You just did not understand me. Now just go on over to the two, and they will promptly give you a taste of the moon also." Here Mary smiled and went over to Joseph, greeted him, and asked him what he was so profoundly considering, and why he and Jonathan were so busily looking at the full moon. But Joseph hardly looked around at Mary and replied, "Just do not bother me in my observation, for I want to decipher something now with Jonathan. Jesus has given us hints which must be worked out, so be quiet now and do not interrupt us." At this, Mary looked at the little child who was secretly smiling, and the little child said, "Now do you see how Joseph and Jonathan still feed on the moon? Just wait here patiently and have James bring me a piece of bread and an orange. For the feeding on the moon by Joseph and Jonathan makes me still hungrier than I already am." Thereupon Mary quickly sent James and had him bring what the little child wanted, and then asked the little child how long it would take for the two to finish their calculations about the moon. And the little child said, "Just watch. Today, even right away, an eclipse of the moon will take place which will last about 3 hours. Now those two do not know what causes this, therefore they will suppose that they have actually eaten up the moon, especially Jonathan, and this phenomenon will put an end to this observation. Afterward, I shall of course instruct them again, as I usually do when it is necessary. But first, both must strongly miscalculate and see their calculations come to naught." Hardly had the little child finished speaking these words when the moon already showed a dark brown indentation. Jonathan was the first to notice this and pointed it out to Joseph. Joseph, in great surprise, noticed the same thing and still more, since the eclipse increased with every moment. At this both were soon afraid, and Joseph quickly asked the child, "Child, what is taking place with the moon?" Here the little child said, "You can see that I am eating, so why do you want to interrupt me? Wait until I am through with the orange, as you with the moon, and I shall tell you more." Thereupon Joseph was silent, and when the moon became totally eclipsed, both became alarmed. Everyone now went into the house while Jonathan seriously believed that he had eaten the moon. Chapter 176. Some Old Fables About the Moon. When he arrived in the house, Jonathan said to Joseph, "Brother, what will become of this most unfortunate situation? By my poor life, just look out of that window. The whole moon has been eaten up, hide and hair, and it is now terrifyingly dark outside. Yes, I have often heard it said, by greatly learned pagans, that man should not count the heavenly orbs nor gaze at them too attentively, for it then could easily happen that they would fall down to earth. And if a man should happen to chance upon his own guiding star, and it fell down, the man would be lost and done for. Now the moon is also a heavenly body, and may be subject to the same strange law. So it might be that we hit upon it, and it fell down to earth somewhere in pieces, for I saw a number of particles fly away from it. Or we are now bewitched by the moon and will become moonstruck, which will be a great affliction for us. One thing is certainly the case. It is obvious that the moon does not exist any more, but who devoured it or where it went is quite another question." Here Joseph said, "Do you know, I have heard a number of times that the moon as well as the sun become darkened. Now that could easily be the case now, although I myself cannot recall ever having seen anything like it. But I have heard from old people that at times the angels of God polish these two heavenly lights, as we do a lamp, once the wick becomes defective, during which time it naturally gets a bit dark on the earth. That may be happening now. For the fable that a dragon begins to devour both heavenly bodies is too stupid, and is nothing but paganism." While Joseph and Jonathan were thus discussing the moon, it began to re-emerge on the other side. The children and the sons of Joseph noticed this and exclaimed, Look! The moon is becoming visible again." The pair looked outside, and a stone fell from Jonathan's heart because he could now see the moon again. Here Joseph again asked the little child how this came about. And the little child said, "Just let the meagre moon come out from behind the shadow which the earth casts, and then we will see if it has changed any." The earth is, after all, no infinitely great body, but is as round as the orange which I ate a little while ago, and floats free in an infinite space. Hence the sun's rays can always cover the earth. Thus the great earth must also throw a shadow, and if the moon enters into this, it is darkened, since it is also illuminated by the sun. Any more I shall not tell you." At this Joseph and Jonathan looked at each other and could not think of anything to add thereto. Chapter 177. A Perfect Earth in Miniature. After a while, Jonathan said to Joseph, "Brother, now who would ever have let it enter his head, even in a dream, that the earth might be an enormously large globe? So we inhabit only the surface of this globe. But what about the sea? Does that also belong to the globe, or does the actual solid earth globe float on it?" Here the little child bestirred himself and stated, "So all of you may not lose your beneficial sleep for all this futile speculation. I shall have to free you from your delusion. Step closer, and you, James, hurry and bring another especially nice orange." When the orange was brought, the little child took hold of it and said, "Behold, that is the earth. I now want this orange to become a perfect likeness of the earth on the smallest scale, with mountains, valleys, rivers, lakes, oceans, and also inhabited places built by men. So be it. At that moment there appeared on the hand of the little child a perfect globe of the earth in miniature, which upon the so be it had in fact become 100 times larger than the orange. The ocean, the rivers, lakes, mountains, as well as the cities were to be seen on this globe just as they actually were. Everyone now pressed up close to look at this wonderful creation of the earth on a minute scale. Joseph soon found Nazareth and Jerusalem thereon, and was amazed at their perfect likeness. Eudokia soon found Thebes in her homeland, and was amazed at its perfect representation. Thus Rome was also found as well as a great many other known localities. The inspection of this globe lasted over an hour, and seemed never to come to an end. Even Mary enjoyed looking at this little earth so much that she became greatly animated by her observations, and the 8 children held their eyes glued to this miniature earth as if they had been turned to stone. The little child now explained the nature of the earth in great detail, like a professor of geography, and all understood his words. When the little child had completed his explanation, he said to James, "James, now take a string and hang this globe somewhere so it hangs free, that those thirsting after knowledge will find something to occupy them tomorrow also. But for today, let us forget this earth and go to rest after the evening meal, for I have become hungry and thirsty during the time you fed on the moon and on the earth." Here Joseph immediately ordered the kitchen master Joel to prepare an evening meal and to put it on the table. And Joel went with the other 3 brothers and prepared a good evening meal.